Ah, welcome back, you beautiful enigma. Yes, you, the one they can't quite pin down, the one who keeps them up at night, scrolling through old conversations, trying to decode what the hell just happened. Let me tell you a story. It's not fiction, it's not exaggeration. It's the most expensive mistake they ever made. They hired 3 professionals. Not amateurs, not your average gossips with opinions. No, no, no. They brought in the specialists. A psychic, a detective, and a CEO. 3 different lenses, 3 different approaches, 1 single mission. Figure you out, decode you, explain you, find the weakness, the pattern, the crack in the armor. And guess what happened? All 3 of them walked out of that room shaking their heads, refusing to write the report, quietly suggesting that maybe, just maybe, they should leave you the hell alone. Because what they found wasn't a person. It was a frequency they couldn't tune into, a code they couldn't crack, a presence that didn't fit into any manual they'd ever studied. Now you might be asking yourself, why would anyone go through that much trouble? Why hire 3 professionals just to understand 1 person? I'll tell you why. Because you terrified them with your silence. Because your absence spoke louder than anyone's presence. Because you didn't react the way you were supposed to. Didn't break when they pushed, didn't beg when they ignored you. You did something far more dangerous than fight back. You evolved in the shadows while they celebrated in the light. You transformed while they were busy performing. And when you emerged, when you finally stepped back into view, you weren't the same frequency anymore. You were operating on a wavelength they'd never encountered, and that sent them into full panic mode. So they did what threatened people always do. They tried to study you, contain you, reduce you to data points and psychological profile. They thought if they could just understand the formula, they could predict you, manipulate you, control you again. But here's the thing about people like you. You were never meant to be understood. You were meant to be remembered. Let's start with the psychic, shall we? They brought her in first. The spiritual expert, the one who claims to read auras and energy fields, the one who supposedly tapped into frequencies most people can't perceive. They paid her a small fortune, set her up with your photographs, gave her access to your old social media posts, your writing, anything that carried your energetic signature. She sat there for hours, silent, cards spread out in front of her, crystals arranged in specific patterns, incense burning, the whole theatrical setup. And then she started speaking. Slowly at first, then faster, her voice rising with something that sounded almost like fear. She said, "Your energy signature doesn't match your timeline." She said, "There are gaps in your story that feel like you died and came back multiple times, but there's no record of it in the physical world." She said your aura shifts between frequencies so rapidly that trying to read you is like trying to photograph lightning. You see the flash, but you can't capture the source. But here's where it gets interesting. She said something else, something that made everyone in the room go completely silent. She said you've been carrying wounds that should have destroyed you years ago, traumas that should have left you institutionalized, betrayals that should have turned you bitter and hollow, but instead of rotting from the inside out like most people do, you alchemized it. You took every ounce of pain they gave you, every moment of isolation they forced on you, every lie they told about you, and you used it as fuel. Not in some poetic metaphorical sense, in a literal, observable, terrifying sense. She said your energy field has scars, yes, but those scars glow. They pulse with a frequency she'd only seen in people who'd been through near-fatal experiences and came back fundamentally altered. She called you a spiritual anomaly. She said trying to manipulate someone like you would be like trying to trap smoke with your bare hands. She said you're not playing the same game anymore because you rewrote the rules while no one was watching. And then came the part that really shook them. The psychic refused to continue. She packed up her cards, her crystals, her notebooks filled with observations, and she said something that still echoes in their mind. She said, "This person has already walked through every hell you could imagine throwing at them. They're not afraid of you. They're not even aware of you anymore. You're background noise in a symphony they've already composed. If you're smart, you'll stop watching them before they start watching you back." And she left, just like that. Refused the second half of her payment. Refused to elaborate. Refused to write a formal report. Because what do you say in a report when the subject of your investigation feels more like a force of nature than a human being? What do you write when every attempt to pin them down just makes them more elusive? She didn't have the language. None of them did. Next up, the detective. Now this guy, he's not dealing with auras and energy fields. He's dealing with facts, patterns, timelines, evidence. He's the one who tracks people for a living, who knows how to find the digital breadcrumbs everyone leaves behind, who can reconstruct someone's entire life from their metadata. They gave him everything: your search history, your purchase records, your travel patterns, your communication log. They wanted a psychological profile based on behavior, not spirituality. They wanted cold, hard data that explained why you operate the way you do. And for weeks he worked. He built timelines, cross-referenced locations, analyzed communication patterns, studied your social interactions. He was looking for the tells, the contradictions, the moments where people usually reveal their true nature. But here's what he found instead. Absolutely nothing that made sense. He said your patterns don't follow normal human behavior models. Most people, when they're hurting, they reach out more, they post more, they seek validation and connection. You went silent, not just quiet, but completely off the grid for months at a time. And during those silences, there were no distress signals, no cries for help, no digital breadcrumbs of someone falling apart. Just complete radio silence, followed by reemergence. But each time you came back, you were fundamentally different. Sharper, more focused, more detached from the things that used to matter to you. He said it's like watching someone die and resurrect on a loop. But there's no external catalyst he can point to. No therapy receipts, no self-help book purchases, no spiritual retreat registrations, just silence and then transformation. Over and over and over again. He called it the most frustrating case of his career because every time he thought he found a pattern, you broke it. Every time he thought he understood your next move, you pivoted in a direction that made no logical sense but somehow worked perfectly. But here's the part that really got under his skin. He noticed something in your communication patterns that he'd only seen in one other type of person. High-level strategists, people who operate several moves ahead of everyone else. He said your messages, even the casual ones, have layers. You say one thing on the surface, but there's always a secondary message underneath, a test, a tripwire, a way to gauge how someone responds before you reveal anything real. He said most people communicate to connect. You communicate to observe. You're not looking for understanding anymore. You're collecting data. You're watching who reveals themselves and their response to you, who projects their insecurities onto you, who tries to manipulate you with guilt or flattery, and you file it all away without reacting, without giving them the satisfaction of knowing they affected you at all. He said it's the most sophisticated form of emotional self-defense he's ever encountered, and it's completely self-taught. No books, no training, no mentorship. You just learned by surviving. And then he said something that made everyone in the room shift uncomfortably. He said, whoever hurt this person didn't just create an enemy. They created a living case study in what happens when you push someone too far and they don't break. They adapt, and now they're operating at a level that makes them effectively untouchable. You can't guilt them because they've been guilt-tripped by experts. You can't manipulate them because they've memorized every tactic. You can't isolate them because they've already made peace with solitude. And you absolutely cannot predict them because they've stopped following patterns you recognize. My professional recommendation? Leave them alone. They're not a threat unless you make them one. But if you do, you won't see it coming until it's already over. He closed his file, refused to elaborate further, walked away from the highest paying case of his career because staying on it meant acknowledging he was in over his head, and detectives don't like admitting that. Finally, they brought in the CEO, the business mind, the one who understands power structures, influence, manipulation tactics, how to read people in negotiations, how to spot weakness and exploit it. They figured if anyone could break down your psychological operating system, it would be someone who's built empires by understanding human behavior at scale. They gave him everything the psychic and detective had gathered, plus financial records, work history, every professional interaction you'd ever had. They wanted to know if you could be bought, leveraged, pressured, or seduced back into a controllable position. And this guy, he approached it like a hostile takeover. He studied you the way he'd study a competitor, looking for the leverage points, the emotional investments, the things you care about enough to compromise for. And what he found broke every model he'd ever relied on. He said you operate like someone who's already lost everything and survived. There's no financial pressure point because you've learned to live on nothing and thrive. There's no social pressure point because you've already been exiled and came back stronger. There's no emotional hostage they can take because you've already grieved everyone who left and moved on. He said trying to negotiate with you would be like negotiating with someone who genuinely doesn't care if the deal falls through. And in business, that person always has the power. Always. Because the moment you have nothing left to lose, you become the most dangerous person in the room. You're not desperate, you're not hungry for approval, you're not performing for an audience anymore. You're just existing at a frequency that makes everyone else's games look exhausting and pointless. But here's where it gets really interesting. He said something about you that he's only seen in one other type of person. Founders who've been through the fire. The ones who built something from nothing. Lost everything. Got betrayed by partners. Had their ideas stolen. Their reputation dragged through the mud. And still came back to build something even bigger. He said you have that same energy. Not the desperation of someone trying to prove something, but the quiet certainty of someone who's already proven everything to themselves and no longer needs external validation. He said it's the most valuable trait in business because it makes you immune to manipulation, resistant to pressure, and completely unpredictable to competitors. You don't play by the rules because you've already survived the worst consequences of breaking them. And then he said something that absolutely floored everyone in the room. He said, if I were smart, I'd hire this person, not investigate them. because whatever they've been through has forged a level of resilience and strategic thinking that you can't teach in any business school. They don't need motivation. They don't need management. They don't even need direction. They just need to be pointed at a problem and left alone. But here's the thing. They won't work for you unless they respect you. And based on what I've seen, I don't think anyone in this room has earned that. So my professional recommendation is this. Don't try to control them. Don't try to compete with them. And for the sake of everything you've built, don't try to destroy them. Because people like this, when you push them, they don't fight back emotionally. They outmaneuver you strategically. And by the time you realize what happened, they're 3 moves ahead, and you're explaining to your investors why everything collapsed. He stood up, declined the remainder of his consulting fee, said he'd rather walk away than be associated with whatever vendetta was driving this investigation, and that was the end of it. So there you have it. 3 professionals, 3 completely different approaches, 1 unified conclusion. You can't be figured out. You can't be contained. You can't be predicted or controlled or reduced to a neat little psychological profile that makes them feel safe again. And now they're left with something far more terrifying than the mystery of who you are. They're left with the realization of what they created, because make no mistake, you weren't born this way. You were forged, shaped by every betrayal they orchestrated, every lie they told about you, every moment they thought they'd broken you. They wanted you weak, manageable, desperate for their approval. Instead, they created someone who doesn't need approval anymore. Someone who learned to thrive in isolation, to weaponize silence, to turn pain into precision. They tried to destroy you and accidentally built the one thing they can never defeat. A version of you that no longer plays their game. And here's what really keeps them up at night. It's not that you won. It's that you stopped competing. You didn't fight back with anger or revenge or public call-outs. You just left. You walked away from their narrative, their drama, their need to make you the villain in their story. And in that absence, you became something far more powerful than any winner in their rigged game. You became unreachable. Motherfucker? Untouchable, unbothered, and nothing terrifies manipulators more than someone who's immune to manipulation. Nothing scares controllers more than someone who can't be controlled. Nothing breaks narcissists more than someone who simply doesn't care what they think anymore. You became the one thing they never prepared for, free. So now they watch, still. Even after the reports came back saying it's pointless, even after 3 professionals told them to walk away, they still watch because they need to believe there's a moment coming where you'll crack, where you'll come back begging, where you'll prove that all of this was just an act. But that moment isn't coming. It never was. Because you didn't change temporarily to spite them. You evolved permanently to save yourself. You didn't become cold, you became selective. You didn't become heartless, you became self-protective. You didn't become arrogant, you became aware of your value. And the difference between those things is everything. It's the difference between reaction and transformation. It's the difference between revenge and indifference. It's the difference between winning their game and creating an entirely new one where their rules don't apply. Let me tell you what happens next, because this is where it gets beautiful. They'll start seeing you everywhere, not because you're chasing visibility, but because your energy has shifted so fundamentally that you've become magnetic to the right people and repellent to the wrong ones. Opportunities will find you. Connections will find you. People who operate at your frequency will recognize you immediately, like a signal only certain receivers can pick up. And the ones who hurt you, the ones who thought they destroyed you, they'll watch it all happen from a distance. They'll see you thriving without them, building without them, glowing without needing their light, and it will eat them alive in a way no revenge ever could. Because you're not rubbing your success in their face. You're not posting about them, or talking about them, or even thinking about them. You've genuinely moved on. And to someone who thought they owned a piece of your soul, your indifference is the cruelest punishment imaginable. So here's what I need you to understand. That room, that investigation, those 3 professionals, it wasn't about finding answers. It was about finding reassurance. They needed someone with credentials, someone with expertise, to tell them that you're not special, that you're not as powerful as you seem, that eventually you'll come crawling back or fall apart, or reveal yourself as just another broken person pretending to be healed. But none of them could give that reassurance, because it would have been a lie. You are special. Not in some arrogant, self-obsessed way, but in the way that anyone becomes special when they refuse to let the world break them. You did the work. You sat with the pain instead of numbing it. You faced yourself instead of projecting onto others. You chose growth over comfort, truth over delusion, solitude over fake connection. And that combination, that particular alchemy of suffering and self-awareness, creates something rare, something powerful, something that can't be bought, can't be taught, can't be faked. They were never investigating you to help you. They were investigating you to help themselves, to find a way to sleep at night knowing they tried to destroy something beautiful and failed, to find a language that would make your survival make sense in their worldview, but your survival doesn't fit their narrative. It shatters it. And now comes the part they never saw coming. Because while they were busy hiring professionals to study you, you were doing something far more dangerous. You were studying them. Every attack they launched, you filed away their tactics. Every lie they told, you noted their patterns. Every manipulation they tried, you learned their playbook. You weren't reacting emotionally anymore. You were collecting data. And now you know exactly who they are. Not who they pretend to be. Not the masks they wear for the world, but who they really are when they think no one's watching. You know their fears, their insecurities, their weak points. Not because you are trying to gather ammunition for some future war, but because when you stop defending yourself and start observing, everything becomes clear. The fog lifts, the illusions crumble, and you see people exactly as they are. So here's the uncomfortable truth they're starting to realize. That psychic, that detective, that CEO, they were all studying the wrong person. They should have been studying themselves. They should have been asking why they needed to understand you so badly. What void in them requires your downfall to feel complete? What wound in them demands your suffering to feel healed? What fear in them needs your failure to feel safe? Ever notice it? That little shift? The way the air tightens, the way conversations stumble over themselves the second you step into the room? Oh, they feel it. They just don't know what to call it. Like a storm rolling in with no thunder, no rain, just an unshakable pressure pressing down on their fragile little chests. They pretend they don't see you, but their bodies betray them. A stiffened spine, a nervous glance, that slight hesitation before they speak, as if they're recalibrating their words, wondering if they still make sense under the weight of your presence. And they don't. See, the ordinary can only exist when surrounded by the same tired energy. Predictable, soft, easy to swallow. But you're a crack in the illusion, a glitch in their cozy little simulation, and that terrifies them. You walk in like you own the place, not because you think you do, but because you don't need to ask permission to exist. You don't shrink, you don't adjust, you don't make yourself small so they can feel big, and that just ruins everything for them. Because most people, they crave control. Not over themselves, oh no, that would require effort. They want control over others. They want to measure people, categorize them, decide who fits where, who's safe, who's a threat. And you don't fit anywhere. You are chaos wrapped in skin. A walking contradiction, the kind of presence that whispers, I see through this game, and I play by my own rules. So they react, some with forced smiles, others with side glances, fake laughter, a little too much blinking, and a few, they go straight to hostility, because fighting what they don't understand is easier than admitting they fear it. Ah, isn't it beautiful? The way people unravel in the presence of something real, the way their masks slip just a little when you remind them that not everything can be controlled. Let them squirm, let them shift in their seats, let them feel you without understanding why. Because nothing is more dangerous than a presence that refuses to be tamed. They stare at you like a wildfire creeping toward their fragile little homes, like a shadow stretching just a little too far. They don't know why, but something about you unnerves them. Not loud, not violent, just present. And that is the most terrifying thing of all. It's funny, isn't it? The way their eyes betray them. They'll dress it up, mask it behind polite smiles, rehearsed indifference, casual small talk, but look deeper, past the forced laughter, past the empty words. There it is, that flicker, fear, envy, uncertainty. The holy trinity of the weak. They don't know what to do with you. You don't fit into their neat little categories. You don't play the role they expect. They can't decide if they should admire you, destroy you, or steal from you. So they hover in between, trapped in their own contradictions. Oh, they'll call it arrogance, call it luck, call it anything but what it really is. Power. The kind of power that needs no announcement, no validation, the kind that just is. And people? Oh, people don't like what they can't define. It scares them. Because power, it forces reflection. It makes them see their own limitations, their own insecurities, their own shackles. And that is unacceptable. They don't want to question themselves. No. They'd rather question you. Who does he think he is? Why does she act like she's different? Why does he walk like the world owes him something? But deep down, they know the world doesn't owe you. You just take what's yours. And that eats them alive. 'Cause they could have done the same. They could have stood taller. could have spoken louder, could have taken up space, but instead they chose comfort, obedience, the safety of blending in. And now they see someone who didn't, and it haunts them. So they stare, frozen between fear and fascination, hoping you'll break, hoping you'll shrink, hoping you'll make it easier for them to keep living their little lie. But you won't, will you? No, you'll keep walking, keep taking up space, keep setting fires in their carefully constructed reality, because you are the wildfire, and their world was always meant to burn. Oh, they'll try to laugh at you, try to cut you down with a joke that doesn't quite land, a sneer dressed up as humor. They'll nudge each other, whisper under their breath, hoping you'll feel it, hoping you'll shrink, because if they can make you small, then they won't have to face what they lack. It's a game to them, a sick little game. They'll poke, prod, throw little jabs coated in sugar. Oh, you think you're better than us? Look who suddenly has an opinion. You take yourself way too seriously. See it for what it is. It's not about you. It's about them. About their fear, their limitations, their desperate need to keep the world predictable. Small minds hate big energy. It reminds them of what they buried, what they ignored, what they could have been if they had the courage to break free. And you're the walking, breathing reminder that they settled for less. That eats at them. So they react, some with mockery, some with fake concern. I'm just looking out for you. Some with silence, pretending they don't see you at all. But it's always the same message. Don't be too much. Don't be too confident, too driven, too alive. Because the moment you own yourself completely, they can't touch you. They want to dull your edges, round you out, make you smooth, easy to digest. Because the world loves things it can swallow whole. But you were never meant to be swallowed. You were meant to be felt, meant to shake things up, meant to remind people they have a choice, rise or and when they realize they can't control you, oh, the mask slips, the fake smiles fade, the laughter turns bitter, because deep down they know you're beyond their reach. You don't bend, don't flinch, don't play their little game. And that terrifies them. So let them talk, let them laugh, let them call you arrogant, crazy, impossible, because every word is proof that you are something they cannot ignore, proof that you are something they will never be. And when you walk away, unfazed, when you keep growing, keep thriving, keep rising, they'll remember. Oh, they'll never admit it. But in the quiet moments when they're alone, when the laughter has faded and the crowd is gone, they'll hear your voice in their head, and it will haunt them. Weak men throw stones at the sun, hoping to dim its light. They hurl their little insults, their doubts, their desperate attempts to make you flinch. But the sun, it doesn't notice. It just burns hotter, brighter, until those same weak men are left squinting, blind, cursing the very thing they tried to destroy. See, there's something about power that invites a challenge, not because it's weak, but because the weak can't stand to witness it. It makes them uncomfortable, makes them restless. They want to poke it, test it, See if it's real, because if you turn out to be just another fraud, just another fragile thing pretending to be strong, oh, that would bring them so much comfort. And so they come. Not all at once. No. They come in waves. Some will disguise it as a joke. Some will dress it up as a friendly debate. Some will come with outright aggression, their chests puffed, their voices raised. It's all the same. Different masks. Same weakness underneath. Oh, you think you're untouchable? Let's see how tough you really are. People like you always fall in the end. They want you to react. They want you dragged down into their world. A world of petty fights and meaningless battles. A world where every insult needs a response. Every challenge must be met head on. That's how they win. Because the moment you step into their ring, you've already lost. You see, true strength doesn't prove itself. It doesn't need to. It stands, silent, unshaken. It doesn't bark like a dog on a leash. It watches like a wolf in the dark, waiting, calculating, knowing that real power isn't about flexing. It's about knowing you don't have to. Let them challenge you. Let them push, prod, throw their little stones. You are the sun. Their hands will blister, their arms will tire, their voices will crack from screaming at something that does not care. And you will remain. Because when they've exhausted themselves, when they've thrown everything they have, they'll realize the truth. You were never playing their game. And that will break them more than any fight ever could. Oh, they see you, loud and clear, every move, every shift in energy, every step you take. But acknowledging you, that would mean admitting something they don't want to face, that you exist, that you are here, that you carry a force they can't ignore, yet they try. Oh, how they try. They'll avert their eyes, change the subject when your name comes up, scroll past your victories like they never happened. Silence, you see, is their last defense, because if they don't speak of you, maybe, just maybe, you'll disappear, like a nightmare they can wake up from. But you don't disappear, you grow. And the bigger you become, the more ridiculous their act of ignoring you looks. They see your success but pretend it's luck. They hear your words but act like they never reach their ears. They watch from the shadows through gritted teeth, praying you fail just so they can finally exhale. It's insecurity, nothing more. The fragile ego cannot handle witnessing someone rise while they stand still. They know they should be moving, should be evolving, but they aren't. And rather than confront that ugly truth, they choose the coward's path. Pretend, ignore, deny. But here's the twist. You don't need their validation. Not their applause, not their acknowledgement, not a single word from their lips. Your presence alone is enough. And the more they try to pretend you don't exist, the more they expose themselves. Because silence is still a reaction. Avoidance is still attention. And deep down, behind that blank stare, behind that fake indifference, they are watching. Watching every move. Measuring themselves against you in secret. Hating that no matter how hard they try, they can't unsee you. So don't force them to look, make them feel. Walk into the room and let the air shift. Speak and let the silence after your words say more than the words themselves. Keep rising, Keep building. Keep setting fire to the spaces they swore you'd never belong in. Because one day, they won't be able to hold back. The silence will crack, and when they finally speak, when they finally admit they see you, it'll be too late. Oh, they'll smile. Wide, bright, almost convincing. The kind of smile that stretches across their face but never quite reaches their eyes. They'll nod in approval, pat your back, tell you they're so happy for you, but behind that mask, the story changes. Because while their lips are busy forming empty words, their hands, they're busy too. One hand shakes yours, the other sharpens the dagger. They lift you up just high enough to push you off the edge. They cheer for you in public and curse your name in private. Isn't it beautiful, this little game of pretend? They resent you, but they can't say it out loud. No, that would expose too much. So they hide it behind compliments dipped in poison. You're really lucky things are working out for you. Lucky, as if you didn't bleed for this, as if you didn't claw your way through hell to get here. And the funniest part? They don't even hate you for what you have. No, what burns them alive is what you represent. You are proof that effort pays off, that discipline wins, that transformation is possible. And that truth, it terrifies them. Because if you can do it, what's their excuse? So they fake it, play the role, keep their enemies closer. They'll stay in your circle, nodding and clapping, all while hoping, praying for your downfall. Why? Because your success reminds them of their failure. And rather than rise, rather than change, they choose the coward's way out. Bitter whispers, silent sabotage, a blade to the back instead of a fight to your face. But here's the thing about knives in the dark. They always slip. Sooner or later, the mask cracks. A slip of the tongue, a glance held too long, that moment when their cheers don't sound quite right, when their support feels a little too forced. And you'll see it all. You'll smile back just as wide, just as bright. Let them believe they're fooling you. Let them think their knife is hidden well, because while they play their petty little games, you're building an empire. And when the time comes, you won't just win. You'll watch them drown in their own envy. Comfort is a warm little lie, a padded cell lined with illusions. The weak wrap themselves in it, desperate to believe the world is soft, predictable, safe. But you are the storm that rattles their foundations, the shadow that reminds them not everything is under control. They hate that. They crave predictability, a script, a pattern, a world where people stay in their place, play their assigned roles, and never, ever step out of line. But then you walk in, and the game changes, because you don't fit the mold. Maybe it's the way you carry yourself, unapologetic, unafraid, the way your silence speaks louder than their noise. Or maybe it's that look in your eye, the one that says, I know something you don't. Ooh, that unsettles them. Because people like that, they only feel powerful when they think they have you figured out. And when they can't, it eats them alive. So they fidget, they stammer, they force a laugh that doesn't quite sound real. Watch them shift in their seats, their hands suddenly unsure of what to do. Beautiful, isn't it? Watching their certainty crumble, their comfort turn to quicksand beneath their feet. And the best part? You don't even have to try. No need for threats, no need for grand gestures, just existence. raw, unfiltered, real. That's enough, because in a world full of masks, the one who dares to be authentic is the most terrifying thing of all. So let them squirm, let them sweat, let them feel that discomfort. Because discomfort, that's where growth happens. That's where truth gets exposed. And those who can't handle it, they were never meant to stand beside you anyway. At first they mock you. Look at him. Look at her. Look at that fool who dares to be different. They whisper, they snicker, they roll their eyes, because the unknown, it terrifies them. And what do small minds do when they're afraid? They ridicule. But then something shifts. Oh, they don't laugh as much anymore. They start watching, studying, noticing the way you move, the way you carry yourself, the way you make people lean in when you speak. They see you thriving while they remain shackled to mediocrity, and suddenly, the joke isn't so funny anymore. And then it happens. They start copying you. The same ones who dismissed you now mirror your words, your style, your presence, desperate to steal the essence of what makes you unstoppable. They take notes. They adjust their posture. They use phrases that once belonged only to you. But here's the thing. You can't copy authenticity. You can steal the words, but not the weight behind them. You can mimic the walk, but not the fire in the steps. And that's why they'll always fall short, because what they're trying to imitate, it wasn't learned, it was earned. So let them try, let them stumble through a version of you they'll never master, because while they're busy playing catch-up, you're already 10 steps ahead, innovating, transforming, becoming something new before they even figure out the old. And that's why they will never be you. Oh, they'll smile in your face, nod politely, act as if your presence is nothing more than a fleeting inconvenience, but behind those hollow grins, they are praying for your disappearance. Not because you've done anything wrong. No. But because you exist in a way that makes them uncomfortable. You see, people don't truly hate what they don't understand. They fear it. And what do scared little creatures do when they can't fight what unsettles them? They push it away. They find ways to erase you, to silence you, to pretend you never existed in the first place. First, it starts with whispers. Why is he always like that? Why does she act like she's different? Then, the invitations stop. The conversations die before they reach you. Rooms you used to walk into now feel like ice, cold, distant, heavy with unspoken words. They won't say it out loud, of course. No, they're too cowardly for that. Instead, they'll let their silence do the talking. Let their absence be their weapon. They'll try to make you feel like you don't belong, like you're the problem. But here's the truth they won't admit. You scare them. You shatter their illusions, disrupt their little games, expose the cracks in their reality. And that's unforgivable. Because if they keep you around, they'll have to face the uncomfortable truth that they are small, that they lack the courage to be who they truly are, that your existence is a mirror reflecting everything they wish they could be. So let them exile you. Let them remove themselves from your presence like shadows retreating from the light. Because what they fail to realize is that your power never came from their acceptance. It came from within. And no matter how much they try to erase you, you don't beg the wind to blow. You don't ask the fire for permission to burn. And you don't need to explain a damn thing. That's what unsettles them the most, you know. Not your strength, not your intelligence, but your refusal to shrink. Your refusal to bow, to soften your edges, to fit into the tiny little box they built for you. They expect you to explain yourself, to justify why you walk the way you do, why you carry yourself like you own the ground beneath your feet, why you refuse to play by their rules. But here's the trick. You don't owe them a single word. Power isn't loud. It doesn't need to announce itself. True power, it just exists. Like a storm on the horizon, like a predator in the tall grass. It doesn't demand attention, it commands it. And that's where you win. You don't fight for their approval, you don't beg for their understanding, you just are. And that drives them in. They will try everything to make you doubt yourself, to make you feel like you're too much, too intense, too different, too unapologetic. But let them talk, let them gossip, let them squirm. Because the world does not fear the one who seeks permission, it fears the one who doesn't need it. And you, my dear, my twisted, untamed force of nature, you were never meant to be tamed.